Dale's on the way, growing goodness every day. Veggie, sun, and family cheer. Tune on in, the farm is here.
Well, hey, it's Farmer Dale, and welcome to the first episode of the Farmer Dale Podcast. That's right, the Farmer Dale Podcast. Coming to you from the Farmer Dale Studios, also the grow room. That's where we start out our plants. So hopefully this sounds well. Hopefully the mic is picking up. Hopefully everything looks good. Hey, look right here. Right here. That's right. It's looking out our back window over our full entire property in our back. So we'll talk a lot about that later on. So hey, welcome to the very first podcast, and I'm so excited. I'm so pumped up about starting the podcast because this is I've thought a lot about this podcast, and today's episode is all about who is Farmer Dale and how did I get to be where I am today. And we're going to talk about what the podcast is planned to be and what it's going to be about. So I hope that everybody stays tuned and continues to listen for the entire time. You may be driving in your car, you may be sitting at your computer. I don't know what you're doing, but right now you're listening to Farmer Dale Podcast. So let's get right into it. Who am I? How did I get to where I am today? Well, here we are. That's right, Farmer Dale. Let me first apologize to all the farmers out there who are true farmers, because I'm not a farmer. I am a wannabe farmer who turned in to be a gardener. And we'll talk about how we got into that. But I apologize to all those farmers out there that work so hard every day to make a living being a farmer, because I know that it's not easy. I know that it is a lifetime. A lot of them have been doing it for their generations and generations after generations. So I apologize if I've made any farmers look bad, because that's not who I am. That's not what I do. Because what I am a full-time PE teacher. I'm a full-time athletic director, and I'm also a basketball coach currently. I've been a basketball coach for a long time. I've coached a lot of different sports, but basketball has been my sport. But I've been doing this for 31 years. So you're like, well, why would you want to be Farmer Dale? And why did you start a garden? And why did you start selling vegetables and flowers and all this? Good question. So here's what happened. In 2020, when the world shut down because of COVID, we were stuck at home. We were trying to teach online. For me as a PE teacher, horrible. My wife was teaching, and she was required to teach online every day, and she did that every single day in the springtime of that year. And then we went into the summertime, and then school started back. But going back to COVID, being stuck at home, I kind of see as a blessing, because if it wasn't for that, I don't think that we would be doing what we're doing today. I plan to keep on teaching, and I plan to keep on coaching, and plan on directing all of our athletics at Woodland Presbyterian School, is where I teach at. So that's what I do. And being Farmer Dale has evolved into something that is continuing to change. So here's what happened in 2020. We were already growing a garden, and we were sitting around, and we were actually talking to my brother-in-law, Heath, and we were talking about, hey, maybe we could sell these vegetables and start a business. My brother-in-law was not involved in that, but he was involved in that conversation. So we were talking about, well, if we do this, what kind of name would we have? So one day he texted us and he said, hey, why don't we go with Farmer Delivery? Because in 2020, nobody can leave their houses. We can make deliveries straight to people's houses. They can Venmo us money, and we can leave it right on their doorstep. No contact. I think that's a great idea. So we used my name, Dale, first name Dale, and we put Ivery at the end of it for delivery. So it turned out to be Farmer Delivery, because we were making deliveries to people's houses. And let me tell you, we use Facebook and Instagram, and we put it out there every week. We would say we got 40 tomatoes. and people would message us, and we would deliver those vegetables to their house. And believe it or not, it worked. We were selling out so fast each week that it became a business. And then me, being the person that I am, said, well, let's go bigger and better on this. So the next year, we moved the garden to another spot, to a bigger, now we have 3 large plots, and because we live on 5 acres. We live out in the country. I teach in the city. We're going to talk about that. But I teach in the city. We live out in the country. So farmer delivery, that's how farmer delivery got started. So in 2020, we were making deliveries, and that's all we did because nothing was open. There were no farmers markets. There was nothing like that. But in 2021 or 2022, they started opening the farmers markets back up. And then Arlington, which we live closest to the city of Arlington, Tennessee, they built this brand new pavilion, and they were going to start a farmers market there. So we started selling our vegetables at that farmers market and did great. We sold out every day. I mean, we were there for 3-4 hours, and within 2 hours, we were sold out, and we're packing up going home. So everything was going great. And I'm like, we got to grow more, and we got to grow more. There's a demand for fresh tomatoes. There's a demand for squash and zucchini. And it's better vegetables than what you can buy at the grocery stores. We know that. You can't, the homegrown tomato, nothing like it. It is one of the best vegetables that you can home grow, better than you can get in the markets for a lot of different reasons, and we'll talk about that. That'll probably be a whole nother episode. So anyway, so that's how farmer delivery got started. And so we've gone bigger and better on vegetables. And then 2 years ago, in 2023, I decided that we were getting out of the vegetable business, and we had dabbled into the world of sunflowers and growing some flowers. And I started getting hooked up with a few florists, and we were making and growing sunflowers for them, mostly sunflowers, some zinnias, but mostly sunflowers. And we were selling 200-300 sunflowers a week, sometimes 500 a week. I said, let's go all in. So in 2023, we went all in, and I did nothing but sunflowers and zinnias, and the 90% of it was all sunflowers. It was going great. It was absolutely wonderful. We were making money for the first time. Gardening is not cheap, by the way, and it's not for the faint of heart. If you're going to start a garden and expect to be have some good things happen, expect some bad things to happen, and if you get lucky along the way, then you've been successful. It takes a lot of luck, though. It takes a lot of knowledge, though. I've studied a lot about how to grow a garden, how to grow certain things. Different varieties work better in West Tennessee than the North or the South. What works better for us. Done a lot of studying on that. So we're talking about, a big part of our podcast is going to be about our garden. And we're going to talk about our favorite vegetables. And we're going to have a guest, because I've got a wide open chair right over here that nobody's in right now. But this chair right here is going to be for our guest, and we're going to talk about that in just a second. But a big part of our show is going to be about the garden and how we do things, the products that we use, the techniques that we try to use, and some of the things we've not been very successful. So that's Farmer Dale and how farmer delivery got started. Now this year was a very tough year. We had to take a step back from what we were doing. I had great plans, and we were doing all flowers this year, no vegetables. But our conversation kept coming up that, boy, I really, really miss growing tomatoes. I really, really miss growing pumpkins. I miss growing cantaloupes and peppers and squash and zucchini. And I just could not get that off my mind and my heart. I'm like, I've got to go back and do that again. But this summer was rough. We were going to grow all flowers anyway. But my dad got sick back in May. And at the end of May, going into June, he got diagnosed with stomach cancer, and they gave him 3 days to 3 months to live. So he decided he was going to come home on hospice care, and he lived almost 3 months, passed away back in September. But because of that, I had to make a very, very hard decision because my brother and I were taking care of him and also taking care of my mom. So I had to let something go. And that one thing was the garden. Boy, I missed it greatly. I'm fired up right now because I say fired up because I'm a teacher and I'm a coach. You know, we say fired up all the time. We're going to get fired up today. So I'm fired up about 2026. And through this process, I've thought about a podcast for a long time. Love to do a podcast. My wife and I tried to start one a long time ago called The Creasy Life, just talking about our life. And we did a couple of episodes. My wife didn't really enjoy it, but it didn't really go anywhere, and we kind of gave up on it. But I am fired up about this Farmer Dale podcast. And I wanted it to be so many things. Number one, I wanted it to be about the garden. Number two, I wanted it to be about my faith. I'm a Christ follower. I gave my life to Christ when I was in the 4th grade. And I've been living for God and trying to do it the right way, in the way He wants me to do it, since I was in the 4th grade. Does that mean I get it right all the time? No, I mess up every single day. That's going to be a big part of our podcast is where has my faith brought me to? What are my favorite Bible verses? What are my favorite sermons? One of our guests is going to be my current preacher, great guy, Jay Stevenson. We're going to have him on the show, which is going to be awesome. He's funny. He's a great preacher, but he's a great person too. So that's going to be fun. And then we're going to talk about sports. Yep, going to talk about sports because, hey, Roll Tide, Alabama, Roll Tide. Won a big game last night in the playoff game. This is December, by the way. We're very, very close to Christmas Day, which is coming up next week, which is going to be awesome. We'll talk about that too. So, but anyway, so gardening, faith, sports. I don't know what else there is, right? Last thing is my family. We're going to talk a lot about my family. My family is a blessing to us. We're going to talk about, I've got, my wife and I have been dating for a long, long time. And I say dating because you got to continue to date your spouse. But we've been married for a long time. We dated and then we got married. And then we have 2 children, 2 grown children who are also both married. So we're going to talk a lot about that. I know my son's going to be a guest on the show. My daughter, we'll see. We'll see what she says. But we'll have her on the show. Maybe my son-in-law, my daughter-in-law. I've got a lot of people in my life that are a true blessing to me. And I want them to tell their story. I want that to be a big part of this show is what is their story? How do they get to be where they are? How did God bring them to where they are? That's what I want our podcast to be. And I want it to be an honest podcast. I'm an honest person. If you know me, you know I'm going to tell you what I think. I'm very blunt. I'm very to the point most days. And that's probably a fault, but that's the way I am. But I want this to be an honest podcast. You know, I listen to a lot of podcasts every day because we drive 35, 45 minutes to school every day. That's one-way drive. So I got a lot of time to listen to a lot of podcasts. I listen to some funny podcasts. I listen to some serious podcasts. I listen to a lot of interview podcasts. But a lot of times, boy, they're just interviewing famous people. I don't want to be famous. I don't. I do want to listen to people's stories, though. I love learning about where they came from. We had a group, anyway, I won't go into that right now. But I love to know, how did you get to be where you are? What has God done in your life to get you here? Or do you really believe in God at all? So that's what I want our podcast to be. It's Farmer Dale Podcast. We'll be right back.
Welcome to the Farmer Dale Podcast.
Well, hey everybody, it's Farmer Dale, and I'm talking to you about advertising because we have a zero budget. That's right, we have no money for this podcast. We have no sponsors. Some of the things I've talked about, you may go, well, he must be sponsored by those people, and I'm not. I've got zero sponsors, but if you do want to be a sponsor, email us at farmerdalepodcast@gmail.com. farmerdalepodcast@gmail.com, and we'll hook you up, and we'll do some advertisements on here. If you have a company in Arlington, in Memphis, Fayette County, Tipton County, it doesn't matter where you are, we'll put an advertisement on our podcast, because we can't grow this program, we can't grow our podcast without your help. So email us, farmerdalepodcast@gmail.com, and we'll get you set up for some advertisement on here.
Welcome to the Farmerdale Podcast. Welcome to the Farmerdale Podcast. Welcome to...
Well, all right, it's Farmer Dale. Welcome back to the Farmerdale Podcast. Hey, we talked a lot about what I want this podcast to be like, kind of where Farmer Dale came from, and how we've gotten to today. I tell you what, this sun is really shining, and it's really warm up here in the grow room today with the sun shining, got some heat going, so it's really nice. But anyway, well, let's talk about what we're going to talk about each week. And number one is going to be, hey, what is your favorite vegetable? I'm going to go ahead and tell you right now. My favorite vegetable that I grow in my garden is the purple hull pea. Some of you are like, purple hull pea? I like black-eyed peas. They're good luck, because New Year's Day is coming. A lot of people will eat those black-eyed peas. But my favorite vegetable is a purple hull pea. It comes in a purple hull pod, probably 10 or 12 peas maybe on a good pod. The pea's not purple though. The pod's purple, but not the pea. And with the right seasoning, pepper, salt, and some butter, they are the best pea I've ever eaten in my entire life. Now, some people call them the Mississippi pea, Mississippi purple hull, some things like that. But they are my favorite. Not my favorite to pick, though, because a lot of back bending work. Because, they grow about as high as your knee, and that means you got to bend over and pick all those pods. But let me tell you, that's my favorite. Now, we grow a lot of different types of vegetables, because we grow okra, we grow cantaloupes and watermelons and squash and zucchini and peppers. A lot of different things, but the purple hull pea, by hands down, is my favorite. Now, my wife loves the purple hull pea too. She loves it, but she loves another vegetable that we don't really like to grow, because I don't like the fresh part of this vegetable. We'll let her talk about that when she comes on the show next episode, because Farmer Jenny will be on here the next episode. So vegetables, everybody has a favorite vegetable, and some people don't like vegetables at all. They're like, I'm a meat eater. That's great. I love eating meat. I love potatoes. Potatoes are probably my favorite by far. We do grow potatoes, but as far as outside the potato world, because I can eat a potato mashed and baked and fried and whatever way. So many ways to cook a potato. I love potatoes too. My purple hull pea that we grow, it is so good. So that's going to be a big part of our show every week, is that whoever is our guest, we're going to talk about what their favorite vegetable is. And then maybe we'll grow it. If they got something that we don't grow, maybe I'll add that to what we're trying. So we're always trying new things, and I'm not afraid of that. And as a gardener, you got to be able to do that. I cannot be afraid to try that. It's like, well, if it doesn't work, it doesn't work, right? And that's what gardening is most days. Is sometimes I'm going to be really good at this. And we, through this process, the last 5 years, we found, well, we're horrible at this. We're really good at this. We found out that we were really good at growing sunflowers. And they were like, can we grow them at different sizes? So this past year, even though my dad passed away and it was a rough summer, I started experimenting with growing smaller head sunflowers out of the same type of seed, and we were very successful of that. But what I found is they don't last as long though, because we've changed how they should be grown, right? So that changed the process of that. So I don't know whether we're going to do that again, but I figured out how to do it, and we were successful at it. So vegetables, you got to love them. It's part of life. I think physically we were made to eat vegetables. Do we eat enough of them every single day? No. Are there things out on the market right now that, we probably need to have a scientist come on our podcast, because it's like, all of these different vitamins are in a pill form now. And you don't have to eat vegetables anymore, it seems like. I think you should get those things naturally, though. I think God made us to be able to grow and to eat those vegetables, meat products. I think He made us differently. Our world's different. People are on a fast-paced life. They don't have time to slow down to eat and sit down with their families. We're going to talk a lot about that. So that's the garden. Our faith, Christmas is coming up in another week. The story of Jesus is, there's a lot of movies and a lot of shows that have been done about the birth of Jesus and how it all came about, and believing what the Bible says about how Jesus was born and the Mother Mary and how just the whole story is crazy. But it's real. That Jesus came to earth to save you from your sins, but He came as a baby. He came as a human. He came to save you from your sins. And He took all that away from us. So we don't have to be striving to be goody all day long. I used to think that. Because He saved me. He took away all those sins from me. We're going to talk a lot about that. We're going to talk a lot about my faith, how I was raised, the church that I was raised in. We'll talk to Farmer Jenny about that. We'll talk to our pastor about that. Everybody that comes on our podcast, there's going to be some element of God, of their faith, how they got to be where they are today. So I look forward to that big part of the show. The other aspect is sports. I'm a big, huge Alabama fan. I love their football team. I love their basketball teams. Farmer Jenny has gotten into to their basketball. She loves watching Alabama play on TV. We're actually going to a game over the first part of January to Tuscaloosa, so we're looking forward to that. But sports is huge. My whole entire life has been around sports. Since I was a young child, I've been playing a sport. And I mainly played football and basketball. I played a little bit of baseball when I was younger. But when I got into middle school, it was football, basketball for me. We're going to, it's some episode, we'll talk about Coach Fowler, my high school football coach, middle school football coach. He changed a big part of my life, of who I was. And at one point, we'll talk about when I got into coaching and how I got into coaching and just fell in love with it and was driven to be the best coach that I possibly could be, and how God steered that avenue of where I teach and where I coach. It's remarkable to me to know that God has directed my every step. Even though I try to direct it myself, He still was right there with me. So that's a big part of it. But sports has been a big part of my life. I've always been an Alabama fan. I don't know how it all happened. It probably because I was watching Bear Bryant and the football teams in the late 70s, early 80s on TV. I just became a Bama fan. And I lived in Tennessee, and I know that's weird. But I went to the University of Memphis for college. I did not go to the University of Alabama. Boy, I really wished I would have, though. That would have been really cool. But I went to the University of Memphis. I'm a Tiger fan. I root for the Tigers, which is awesome. They do good here, do good bad there. We'll talk. That'll be a part of the show too. How about the Memphis Tigers? But Alabama is my team, and they had a big win last night. They beat Oklahoma at Oklahoma in the first round of the playoffs. So now they get to go on and play Indiana. I don't know. Indiana's really good. Bama's really going to have to play really well. So we'll see how that turns out. It's going to be really good. They play on January the 1st on New Year's Day. So tune in for that. We may even have a podcast before then, the second episode coming out. So that's going to be fun. So we'll talk about your teams, and our special guests talk about their teams and what sports, and do they like sports or they don't like sports? What do they like to play? What do they like to do? So we'll talk a lot about that to our guests. Look, this podcast is going to be awesome, and I'm so pumped up about it. I'm so excited about it, and I hope you will you'll subscribe, that you'll ring the bells, that you'll do all those things on social media that will help us grow up our podcast. I like to laugh. My students at school go, "You're so serious all the time. You never smile." Well, I love to laugh, and I love to be entertained, and I love to talk to people about their lives and laugh about the funny things that may have happened to their lives, and talk about all the funny things that happened to us. So I cannot believe that happened today. So that's what the podcast is going to be about. I'm so pumped up. Hey, I love sweet tea. I love to drink tea. We'll probably have a whole episode about tea, but you got to take a sip. Hey, I'm pumped up. We'll catch you on the next episode of the Farmer Dale Podcast. Farmer Dale, out.
Welcome to the Farmer Dale Podcast. Welcome to the Farmer Dale Podcast.
Well, hey, thanks for listening to episode number 1 of the Farmer Dale Podcast. Last thing is this. We're going to have a merch store coming up. That's right, the Farmer Dale merch store. We're going to have hats. This is one of my favorite hats, the Richardson 112. This is one of the old, rebranding, because we're going to take away the ivory or the ivory, whatever it is. Some people say it different ways. It's going to be just Farmer Dale with our logo. We got several different logos. We're going to have hats. One of my favorite hats is the Richardson 112, but also the 47. We're going to have some of those. We're going to have hoodies. We're going to have t-shirts. I got to get me one of those. That's probably what you're thinking. Go to our merch store, and you can order from the merch store, and then we'll get whatever you ordered delivered to you, and that will also help us grow our podcast. So check out the Farmer Dale merch store.